Good morning. Today is Sunday, April 4th. It is Easter Sunday. It's also Parinirvana Day for Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, who we have read many times, read from his teachings many times in this class. Parinirvana means the day they pass away from this, current life, current incarnation. So let us set our intentions for today's class by saying the Four Immeasurables prayer. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings not be separated from happiness that has never known suffering. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment, anger, and aversion. Next week, we have a very special class. Dr. Vesna Wallace, who joined us back in 2020, she did a discussion on emptiness, shunyata, but this next week, Sunday, she will join us an hour later than this time. So it'll be Sunday, April 11th, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. And she's going to give a talk on karma, which is something we've discussed a lot. And many of you have lots of questions about often when we bring up the topic, but she will, she can speak about it far, far, far better than I can. And she will get into it in great detail. So if you have questions, get them ready, and we will discuss them next week. It might be good to, you could email some of the questions. Nick, if you could put the email address for our class up, that would be good. And you can email in advance. We can have some advanced questions that I can ask her on your behalf. But that's going to be great. She's been very generous and kind with her time. Dr. Wallace is just a great Tibetan Buddhist scholar and practitioner, and is one of the world's authorities on Mongolian Buddhism, actually. So the email address is Michael Imperioli Meditation 101 at Gmail. So that's going to be a big one next week, and I'm excited because I always learn a lot from Dr. Wallace. She's just brilliant and just a great practitioner and human being. Okay, we did kind of a review last week, so let's just get to sitting. I may talk through it, I may not. Let's do 11 minutes, starting now. We use the breath as our anchor. When we return to the breath, when we recognize our thoughts, or recognize rather that we are thinking and leave our thought where it is and go back to the breath. We imagine the thought like a cloud that has arisen in this very clear, pristine, unstained, limitless blue sky that is our mind. And that cloud can just dissipate and dissolve back into the sky from which it arose, leaving no trace. We accomplish that by becoming aware of the thought and going back to the breath, leaving the thought where it is. And relax, very important. Body should be upright, but not rigid. You will think, you will have thoughts. That's what the mind does. Don't judge that. Don't even battle it. Just recognize it lightly. Go back to the breath. And you may have to keep doing this time and time and time again. In fact, you will be doing that. Like maybe sometimes every 2 seconds. That's okay. Okay, great. We're going to do a little reading. Questions, put your questions into using the Q&A function. So when we meditate, we're looking at our mind. We're seeing what our mind is doing, and the mind thinks, right? So when we sit down and calm down, we become aware of these thoughts that are there and that run and that are in, go like a string, or like a train. One leads to the next to the next. This is happening in our mind. Our mind thinks. Then we apply the technique of becoming aware that we're thinking. What is becoming aware? What is aware of our thinking? Mind as well. So this technique is mind looking at mind. And to elaborate, we're going to read from my teacher, Garchen Rinpoche's book, which is called The Three Statements of Dzogchen, the all-pervasive lamp of wisdom, a commentary on the three statements of Dzogchen. And it's a commentary on a text by Garib Dorje, who lived in the 1st century CE. He was the first Dzogchen master. Dzogchen is basically a pretty high advanced meditative technique, if you will. I don't know if this book is readily available. It might be on the Garchen Buddhist Institute website. It might just be, I think it was published by his Sangha in Singapore, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. We meditate to recognize the nature of mind, to recognize all the thoughts without pursuing them. When we observe and examine this awareness that recognizes the thoughts, we will recognize our own true nature, naturally luminous, like a butter lamp. Butter lamp is traditionally used in Tibet. I guess it's similar to like an oil lamp or like a liquid candle, but it's made from yak butter. I think it's solid, but then becomes liquid when it's heated. I could be wrong. The light of a butter lamp is naturally luminous. There's no external agent making it luminous. When you see your own true nature, you see primordial wisdom. So let's put these thoughts together. When we observe and examine this awareness, the mind looking at mind, this awareness that recognizes thoughts, that mind that recognizes we're thinking, this is what we're practicing, we will recognize our own true nature. When you see your own true nature, you see primordial wisdom. Milarepa said, I do not see consciousness. I only see primordial wisdom. When you see the nature of consciousness, you see primordial wisdom. It is called primordial wisdom because it has been there since beginningless time. So this mind looking at mind is that's the essential nature of mind. And that nature contains primordial wisdom, which they're saying consciousness, basically saying the nature of consciousness is primordial wisdom and has been there since beginningless time. When we talk about reincarnation and that consciousness continues, that's what we're talking about. We're not so much talking about a soul really, or whatever inherently Michael is or you are. It's really the nature, it's consciousness combined with whatever karmic imprints we carry, karmic energetic charge that we carry. So this technique we're doing, mind looking at mind, we're really getting in touch with our own true nature, primordial wisdom. When you see the nature of consciousness, you see primordial wisdom. It has been there since beginningless time, and it is called wisdom as it knows everything. If you recognize it, you recognize that no matter how vast and limitless samsara and nirvana are, nothing transcends this awareness. That's pretty huge, right? So that focus, that awareness of mind looking at mind, there's nothing that goes higher than that in a way. And enlightenment, I suppose, is that state, being in that state permanently, right? So the thoughts don't arise, and that you are just kind of your awareness that is primordial wisdom. Your mental state is unimpeded and unpausing. Primordial wisdom is being in that state, you know. But what we're doing in this practice is glimpsing that, you know, that feeling of calm that you get in between thoughts. That's a glimpse of that. The outer example of awareness, so the inner example is that, you know, that clarity of mind, that clarity of nature of mind. The outer example of awareness is space. There is nothing that is not pervaded by space, even us, you know. Within our atomic structure is space in between, you know, the particles and waves. There is nothing that is not pervaded by space. Everything fits within space. When you see the actual nature of mind, it is completely free of all grasping and fabrication. It is beyond center and boundary. Milarepa said, realizing that mind and space are indivisible is the realization of the Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya is basically some people would interpret that as where everything kind of stems from, the eternal nature of everything. The unborn sphere of phenomena. Ordinarily, we call it consciousness, but when we realize its nature, we call the same mind primordial wisdom. It is still the same mind. When it is projected outward, so when that mind is projected outward, like I'm looking at my computer screen, now I'm having thoughts of computers and who's watching and what my computer is doing. When the mind is projected outward, that's ordinary discriminating consciousness. When projected inward, when you look at it and realize its essence, you can call it primordial wisdom. But they're not separate from each other, a single nature. Those are very big concepts, but the only way we can learn these is start to get flavors and tastes of it and glimpses of it, and tune our attention to these things, because these are the hard essence teachings of Buddhism, really. I mean, at least the Buddhism that I've been that I study and that we're studying together. So that today's April 4th, so it's the Parinirvana of Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, and there's just one quote I'd like to share by him that really sticks with me. It's very much tied into this, because when we're talking about the nature of mind, we're talking about Buddha nature. The Buddhism believes that we already have Buddha nature. It's a matter of clearing away obscurations to let that be let that free, let that be unimpeded, right? And Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, there's a quote where he says, at some point you realize that it's not about you trying to be Buddha. You realize that Buddha's trying to become you. I love that. Let's see if we can answer any questions. I've meditated without a timer all this week. Since you mentioned you don't use a clock, I seem to land 11 minutes. Is there something in that? How do you determine when your meditation session's over? I don't think there's necessarily anything in that. I don't know when you determine when it's over, when you feel like it's over, when you feel like it's enough, when you feel, we all have inner clocks. You feel like, you've used up enough time. It's really up to you. Find what's comfortable. Try different things. The importance is that you're sitting regularly. Do you use Reiki music to meditate? No, I don't use any music to meditate. Are there any important things to know and recognize when beginning? I mean, that's what you do when you begin. You start to learn things. You start to learn important things to know and recognize. I mean, be patient, be diligent, have an open mind. I try to do a 36-hour fast once a fortnight. I believe that the combination of this and a routine of meditation helps. Do you ever try periods of fasting? What are the benefits? I haven't done much of that. I can't really speak to that. I think if you're going to fast, you probably should have someone who knows about those things guiding you a little bit, at least, because it's, it could be a lot on the body. I don't know anything about that really. But hey, if you feel it helps, that's good. I'm very aware of my mind a lot of the time, and since yesterday I'm seeing a lot of guilt for not being more mindful. I'm being there for my friend. Should I push away this guilt, or should I look at it even more to become more mindful? I think you can look at guilt as being guilt is kind of an aspect of self-centeredness and ego, because you're focusing on you're saying guilt for not being more mindful and being there for your friend, and now you're mindful of your feelings about not being mindful. So guilt can kind of take away even further than not being mindful. Now you're not being mindful and you're guilty about it, so it's almost more of it's another wall of ego. It's another wall of self-centeredness and self-cherishing, even though it seems like not the opposite of self-cherishing, but actually it is, because it's indulging in the attachment to the self. I don't think you should push away anything. You should just become aware of it and then let it go, and focus on being mindful. Forget the guilt. Learn from it. Learn from that. You realize, you're not mindful, and it's important for you to be so. Does this primordial wisdom survive after the body dies? Yes, 100%. It's always been there. Buddhists believe in reincarnation. That is the chain. That is the link through all the different life forms and lifetimes that we go through. That has gone on from beginningless time and will go on into the endless future. That is the link. It is primordial wisdom. Like I said, we do carry karmic imprints and karmic seeds and things along with us, but those things can become purified to the point where, when a Buddha is only a primordial wisdom. I practice prayer as well, and I've heard that prayer is like asking for help, and meditation is listening. Do you have experience being inspired in meditation? Yeah, I mean, meditation I find inspiring, and there are prayers. We do prayers at the beginning of essentially beginning of end of class. The four measurables is basically a prayer, just that we set our intentions in this positive way, and we dedicate. That's a dedication prayer. Dedicating merit to all beings. I think prayer is a way really of making aspirations for one's own, for oneself, and the act of saying has a lot of energy and a lot of power. Can you share a moment with your Rinpoche that comes to mind? Well, my day I took refuge with him and he gave me my name. You get a Buddhist name, and the middle name is Zopa. And he said, the key to your practice, Zopa means patience in Tibetan. The key to your practice is patience, because when you lose your patience, you lose your love. I've said this before, but when I heard that, 12 years ago, however long ago it was, 11 years ago, you take it as some pithy, oh, of course, yeah, patience. But over time, I really realized that there was a lot more to that. that in essence, that is a certain kind of key to practice, at least for me. And really going into, well, what exactly is patience? As patience, combines mindfulness and, like he said, love. Really trying to see how that plays out in our life. That was a memorable one. Is there a book you could recommend for someone interested in studying Buddhism? I'm new to it. I always recommend The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama as the first book. That's a good one. What is the difference between Buddhism and Tibetan Buddhism? Well, there's not really a difference. Buddha was born in northern India, and the teachings spread to different countries. And then different countries, you're talking about centuries and centuries. Buddha lived 2,500 years ago. Buddhism reached Tibet around 800 of the, whatever, CE, Common Era. That's what we call it? And when these teachings start to flourish in a certain country, they get imbued with the culture of the country. But there is no difference really. And, different countries, some focus on different aspects of the teaching. The Buddha teach for a very long time, 50 years maybe, from his 30s, and he died at 80 something. So he lived for like 50 years. And the teachings of the Buddha are very vast and cover lots of different topics and livelihoods and different levels of understanding, different methods. There's the monastic, there's the lay people, and there's many, many teachings, 84,000 teachings. So, you know, the different cultures focus on different aspects of the teachings that were needed in wherever, or that was most efficient for that part of the world, or they had more of a connection to a certain teaching. So, but they're all Buddhism, whether it be Zen Buddhism, Mongolian Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, Thai Buddhism. I mean, Southeast Asian flavor. They're different flavors, really, but it's all the same. Do our experiences add to this wisdom or cloud our ability? It depends what you mean by experience. Experiences in meditation, certainly. I don't think, here's the point. The wisdom doesn't need anything added to it, and you can't add to primordial wisdom. It just is, right? You can't take anything away from it. That's Buddha nature. You're born with that, you'll die with it. You can't add to it. You can take what experience, like practice, meditation, studying Dharma, what it can do is give us an ability to clear obscurations, mental complications and constructs that prevent us from seeing it and connecting to it. I'm struggling with extreme attachment to someone who's a positive force in my life, but recognizing that it's unhealthy, as in all attachment, it's best to distance myself from. Is it best to distance myself from this person in order to avoid feelings of attachment, anger, and aversion? No. I mean, you have to realize that love and attachment are two different things, right? Because attachment, again, is about us, about our ego, and about our self-cherishing. So attachment means I'm attached to this person for a reason, because I need something from this person. I want this person to do, this, play a certain role, play a certain function. That's attachment. Love is that appreciating that person and, feeling connectedness that's not based on this self-grasping that you need this certain aspect from this person, or because often attachment and aversion, are two sides of the same coin, right? Because when that person does something that is not agreeable, it's, anger and hatred that arises immediately. So I think it's, before you have to distance, try to see if you can discern those two things, attachment and love, and try to discern how much of the love is rooted in your own, ego, self-grasping, those things. What brought you to Buddhism? Uh, dissatisfaction with life, really. Do you think duality, that thinking you mentioned, mind looking at mind over time, becomes one mode of thinking? Um, Mind looking at mind is not duality per se. It's mind looking at mind, and the mind that looks at mind is a Buddha nature which is non-dual. Does it become one mode of thinking? You might attain a better mindfulness awareness. I'm not really sure of the question. I mean, this practice over time, and it may take several lifetimes, maybe hundreds of lifetimes, it depends on what we do in this life, in the future lives. It's really about dismantling the mental constructs and the system we've gone attached to and have constructed in order to protect the ego, in order to operate in the world, or whatever world we are incarnated in. And the teachings and meditation is to kind of clear away those obscurations so we can get in touch with this nature of mind. What is the importance of receiving a new Dharma name after taking refuge? I don't know exactly. Well, usually the first name is my first name is Konchog, which is the family name of Garchen Rinpoche. His real name is Konchog Gyaltsen. So that's the lineage name that you're connected to. Konchog Zopa Sonam is the third name. In a way, it's sinking. It's an expression of your commitment. It's a ritual. You're taking, you're taking refuge, and you're kind of making a commitment to be on a path. And in some ways, that's an awakening. Do you believe that nothing goes away until we learn from it? I don't know. I can't answer that. Not necessarily, but I don't know. I mean, that's a good question, but I don't know. Okay, let's do some more meditating. Thank you for all your questions. That's 9 minutes of meditation. And see if you can connect that mind looking at mind to that, just that Buddha nature, that essence of mind, that calm, that limitless potentiality, primordial wisdom. Those are big, big concepts. But just, I think knowing that that's there is important. Meditation, 9 minutes. Okay, great. I want to clarify one of the questions, as I made a mistake. It's not here anymore. Basically, we're talking about primordial awareness. It's in the book. It was projected outward. Here. Ordinarily, we call it consciousness, but when we realize its nature, we call the same mind primordial wisdom. Consciousness, primordial wisdom is the same. When it is projected outward, it is the ordinary discriminating consciousness. So I was it's not this samsaric mind, which I've kind of described it as. So I'm looking at this computer and I'm thinking thoughts about it. It's when you're projecting the primordial wisdom out, there's a level of discriminating consciousness and discriminating awareness that is of a much, that is has an enlightened energy to it. That's why, realized beings can benefit other beings because they can see through that discriminating awareness uh, how best to help. It's an important point. We're to make sure we got that. So next week, Dr. Vesna Wallace, April 11th, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. Focus, the topic is karma. If you want to send questions in advance, Michael Imperioli, meditation101 at Gmail. Or you can use the Q&A function during class and submit questions during the class. Don't miss it. It's going to be great. I'll announce it on Instagram this week. I think it's going to be tremendous. She's wonderful. Let us dedicate the merit from today's class to the benefit of all beings. By this merit may all beings attain the state of enlightenment and conquer the enemies of faults and delusions. May they be liberated from this ocean of samsara and its pounding waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Thank you, our producer, Nick Solidio, for his kindness and generosity in making this possible. Thank you for being here. See you next week, 11 a.m. Eastern, Dr. Wallace.